If you're joining us today for the first time, my name is Richard Palais. I'm with AmPac Business Capital. Today's webinar will be on the California Relief Grant. I appreciate you joining me on this morning. Today's date is Thursday, tremendous Thursday, April the 22nd. Time now is 10:30. This webinar will be recorded just so that you all are aware. And if you want to look back at it again later, also, if you'd like to enter a question, you can use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And if you want to use the chat feature, you just simply want to say hello, hi, I'm here. You can use the chat feature for that. Thank you. Our webinar will be starting momentarily. And for the purpose of the recording, the time right now is 10:30. We will start our webinar at 10:32. Hello, Angel. Glad to see you out there. And Anthony. Hello, Anthony. I just realized where I can find who's showing up today. So hello to you, Angel. Hello to you, Anthony. I recall emailing both of you back and forth regarding the grant. So I'm glad to have you in audience today. The slide that we'll present will be information about AmPac, and then I will go into the actual California Relief Grant. We're going to give it one more minute. Oh, looks like Anthony may have left the meeting, but Angel, hello to you. Here we are live. So we'll start in a minute anyway. We'll start at 10:32, and an audience of 1 is the same to me as an audience of 100, Angel. So we're going to go through everything that you need to know to be successful in well, actually, you won. I just remembered that. You were selected. Yay. So this will be your opportunity to learn more information to share with Dr. Marla and other people that may use you as their resource to getting information about the grant. How's that? Time now is 10:32. So let's go ahead and get started. Angel, it's you and I. Let's enjoy the opportunity of learning about AmPac and the California Business Relief Grant together. At AmPac, we like to say that we make access to business capital. That's what we do. We make access to business capital as easy as ABC. And I call that the application, business review, and closing process. We're a 501c3 mission-based lender. We're authorized by the U.S. Department of Treasury, which gives us the designation or certification, if you will, as a certified development financial institution. That long expression we simply simplify by saying CDFI. We're also licensed by or authorized by the U.S. Small Business Administration, which means we have the opportunity to provide SBA lending to clients. We have an SBA microloan program, which is $5,000 to $50,000. And we also have the SBA 504 program, which is as small as $50,000 and as large as $5 million as a second trustee debenture to a bank first lien transaction, which means you can get up to 90% CLTV when you're buying your commercial real estate. So hopefully, Angel, one day you'll be looking to buy your commercial real estate. We exist. What do we exist to do? We exist to make communities better, families stronger, and be champions of job makers, small businesses. What do we do? Well, we talked about lending. We talked about providing SBA lending. We also provide, as I mentioned, CDFI lending. And what that means to you all in the audience is that we can be more flexible than a typical bank in providing capital to small businesses. Sometimes you just don't meet the criterion for a bank. There's many reasons why you may not meet the criterion of a bank, and our banking partners, who we have many of them, especially in the greater Los Angeles region, which includes the Inland Empire. So we have the opportunity to work with you from your bank, if you're transferred to us from your bank, or if you haven't been to your bank yet, we will certainly help you. And then what we try to do is, at a time when you're paying your loan on time, we want to see you go back to bank financing, because let's face it, they can go directly to the Fed window and get their capital. So theirs will always be the cheapest capital, aside from your crowdfunding audience, which are friends, families, and fools. Just a little something to make you smile. We are a direct lender, so the loans that we make, we are providing. We're using the capital provided to us by the SBA, the US Treasury, and by our banking partners. So we're not a broker. We don't charge broker fees, if you will, but the fees that we charge are for those in servicing the grant, and possibly if we're placing a guarantee on the particular loan transaction that we're making to support our risk. We do have partnerships. It's wonderful being a part of the AmPac family, because you're not just working with us, but you're working with our team and those that we call our team, which are our partners. We have in-house consultants ourselves, and then we also have relationships with SCORE, relationships with the Small Business Development Center system, which is through the SBA, and we have a relationship with the Women's Business Center, again, through the SBA, and Cal State San Bernardino is also partnering along with us. So these are just a few of the partners that we have working along with us that can provide technical assistance to you. And the provisions of this technical assistance would be at no cost to you, because these organizations are funded by our tax dollars, by the Small Business Administration. So we appreciate you, and of course the university is funded by their donors as well. But the idea is you have the help that you need at no cost, but the commitment is going to be the same, because we're all mission-based and trying to assist you. We do have ongoing training programs, and there's a lot of ways in which you can get the assistance that you need. And what are we trying to do? All of us are working together to help you to start, grow, and expand your business. Because we're mission-based service providers, us as a lender and these other institutions that we work with as counselors, we're always looking to see how can we get you a yes in the decisions that you need made. I need access to capital. Yes, we will help you get there. I need to learn more about my marketing, my accounting, manufacturing, getting certified to get government contracts, getting certified to get construction contracts, working with primes, working with banks, etc., suppliers. The idea is we want to give you all the tools necessary to facilitate that relationship and that happening for you. So we value saying yes when others may have said no. As I mentioned, with all these partners, what does that mean? That means we're a matchmaker. We're a matchmaker because we're a non-traditional bank lender. We're not competing with banks. We're here to assist banking partners. We're here to help you not have to go to the cabbage and those organizations that may be higher price lenders. We want to be a price leader when it comes to lending, and we certainly want to be the service provider for you as a small business owner. We are here, as I mentioned earlier, and you'll hear me repeat myself multiple times throughout this presentation, including the California Relief Grant, just to reiterate points. We are here to work with businesses from the ideation stage, or some we call the start. That's the pre-startup. Once you get started, the expression startup, just for those of you who didn't know, the expression startup depends on financial institution as to when you're called, still being referred to as a startup. A startup could be you're just getting ready to open your doors. A startup can be, in some institutions, you've only been open or operating, if you will, for 1 year. In some institutions, a startup is 2 years, and others it can be as long as 3 years. All being considered startups, we work with all levels of startup and beyond. More experience or existing businesses, the next term, you're either a startup or you're an existing business in the financial world. And then what we are looking to help you do, again, is to expand. Well, first to grow within wherever site you're operating, or wherever way in which you're operating. Maybe it's just you, but you're looking eventually to hire employees. Now you're growing. And then when you're growing out of your space and you need to find a space that you want to lease, and ultimately we would like you to buy, that's expansion. No, excuse me, that's growth. I'm sorry, I'm doing this backwards. Growth is adding the people, expansion is adding the locations. Okay, so there we are. And so because we're a mission-based lender, we're not answering to shareholders. Our focus is you and not the profit of those that are investing in us. So it's all about you. Welcome to this presentation today. You may be wondering, well, how much capital can you actually give? We can give capital from $5,000 to $150,000. So we're very, very happy to have you on the webinar to learn more about us. And we do have special programs for people of color. Our CEO has developed a special program for minority small business owners. Inquire within. You can send an email to me if you want to put a question in the chat for me to reach back out to you. I can do that and reach you there. Finally, this is our building in Ontario. It's on Inland Empire Boulevard, just a few traffic lights east of Haven Avenue, exit on the 210 freeway, or if you're coming down, 210, or if you're coming up from the 10 freeway, we're just a few traffic lights east of that in a small business park. This is our building. This is owned by AmPac Business Capital. Hilton Kennedy, our CEO, has purchased this building. It's under renovation now, but starting in late June, early July, we will be up and running, and we hope to see you at our grand opening on September the 10th. Now let's talk about the grant. The California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Program was started by an initiative of Governor Newsom. He had originally made available $500 million to help small businesses in the state of California back in December. This was being administered, or the oversight of it was by the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, and then it's being serviced, or the opportunity to apply for this grant is being handled by Lendistry. This is the platform in which you're actually applying for your grant under. It's activated and operated by Lendistry. It's the oversight again. Cal OSBA is saying these are the rules in which applicants are to be considered, and they created an electronic scorecard. So as you're applying for this grant, you know it's not a first come, first served grant. This instead is an opportunity for all those that apply. As long as you apply during the period in which a round is open, you have an opportunity to apply. And guess what? You are you are scored at the same time as everyone else. So when a round closes, that's when scoring takes place. The scoring has a number of components in it that we do not know all of the components. No one knows. That's the trade secret, if you will. The importance of it is it's a tool that was designed to score people fairly. What it's looking for is many components, but some of the major components are, were you in an industry that was most highly impacted by COVID-19? Do you live in a rural area? Are you a member of an underserved minority community? And then another aspect of that scoring is your status. Are you a veteran? Are you not a veteran? Are you a women-owned business? And so these are just some of the components of the scoring. But as you can see, it's an effort to try to reach everyone, and to especially make sure that those in minority communities, rural areas, who are highly impacted businesses, and in who are those particular disadvantaged classes, if you will, that we're defining them here in America. We're trying to make sure that you get an opportunity as well as everyone else. The first rounds were earlier in the year. This slide here is just talking basically about the rounds. I'm going to speak to it, and then we're just going to keep moving forward. But the first two rounds were back in December. They ran through early January. That was that first $500 million that was made available. And when the recognition, if you will, was that COVID was not going away, that many businesses were still being severely impacted, Governor Newsom had then stepped in and said, well, we need to infuse more money into this opportunity to help small businesses, into this California Relief Grant. So he infused an additional $1 billion with a B, $500 million. That those funds were actually started to be considered and then distributed in round 4. We'll talk about that in a moment. But rounds 1 and 2 were a part of the $500 million. So if you're a person on the line who applied back then and you still have not received an answer as to whether or not you're going to be qualified for the grant or ultimately ineligible, you've been getting something called a wait list email, you're still under consideration. Your application moves through round by round by round. So here we are at, April 22nd, because of the $1.5 billion that was added to the grant, because originally the $500 million, it was just 2 rounds. But when and then the third round was simply scoring all of those that were in round 1 and 2. and no new applicants were taken. But when the 1,500,000,000 was added, then the floodgates, I should say, not just doors, but floodgates swung wide open with an additional funding of opportunity for those in the cultural arts delivery space. So these are nonprofit organizations that are delivering cultural arts and activities. So cultural programs, I'm sorry, and arts. This was an opportunity for that industry exclusively. $50 million is being made available to those in those particular industries. Then when round 4 opened, it was back to, I'm sorry, that was round 4. When round 5 opened, which recently closed here in here in April, at the end of March. Wow, I'm really just all over the place this morning. I'm sorry. It's Thursday. It's been a long week. But when round 4, which just recently closed here in April, when that round closed, those were new applicants, as well as those from rounds 1, 2, and 3 and 4. So when round 5 closed, everyone went into round 5. Opportunity was still available. So we're happy that people were still applying back then. So here we are, 5 rounds in. We're preparing to go to round 6. And so for those of you that may be new on the call, you have not applied before, you haven't heard of this grant by now, if you've been on since the beginning of the call, you recognize there's opportunity. It's not a first come, first serve. There's $1,500,000,000 worth of funding available. So we are encouraging you to apply. It's not a first come, first serve basis. Eligible businesses, as we talked about, this is for profit and nonprofit. If you are incorporated outside of the state of California, that's fine to be eligible for the grant. You have to have a location here in California. You can operate as a foreign authority. We know that. As a corporation, you can come from another state and operate in California, but you have to have an address here in California to be eligible for the grant. And again, you could be a nonprofit or for-profit business. Business structure does not matter. You could be a sole proprietor. And a sole proprietor, that's an independent contractor. For those of you who are Lyft drivers or Uber drivers, or you're working for Postmates, you are a sole proprietor. You call yourself an independent contractor. You're recognized by the government as such. But when you file, you're filing as a sole proprietor. An independent contractor is a sole proprietor. So sole proprietors can apply. S corporations can apply. You can be a C corporation. You can apply. You can be a partnership, general or limited liability corporation, general or limited liability partnership. You can apply. Again, you can be a nonprofit organization and you can apply. So the entity structure doesn't matter, just being able to evidence that you're a legal entity in the state of California, operating a business in the state of California. If you have a professional license or your city requires a business license, you will provide that as validation that you are operating legally according to the state and according to the federal government. And the key here is your gross revenues. Let me say that again. The key here is your gross revenues. You must have you must have generated at least $1,000 in revenue. Why did I pause and correct myself when I said earn? Because when we think of earnings, we think of our final bottom line on our tax return. Did I earn any income or did I lose income? And accordingly, that's how you would pay taxes. Well, in this grant, it's not about whether or not you earned an income. It is, did you generate income? Did you have any type of business operation that brought income revenue into your business? You need at least $1,000. And on the other end of the spectrum, you cannot apply for this grant if you have generated more than $2.5 million in revenues in your small business. Ineligible businesses, these are businesses that are not acknowledged as legal, if you will, by the federal government. The federal government has not said you could legally operate that business in the United States. So that would be our cannabis business. Those businesses that are of a sexually prudent nature, they can operate, but they're not acknowledged by the federal government as being a business that we can support with our tax dollars in that aspect. So you can't be in those businesses. And if you were in the industries where it's religious, so you're a nonprofit organization and it's a religious institution and 100% of your activities are propagating the gospel, you cannot apply for this grant. The only way a nonprofit organization in that particular industry, or those that are in political organizations, the only way you can apply for this grant is that 51% or more of the operation that you are looking to fund is for social services. When you think about your daycare programs, perhaps your senior care program, maybe you're transporting seniors or you're transporting children, you're providing services to the community. Maybe you're a feeding program, right? A feeding program that actually has an income besides food donations. But again, there has to be a revenue generation. So that's what you want to bear in mind. We won't spend a lot of time on ineligible businesses or eligible businesses. I think you get the message. Eligible usage of funds. We're trying to, the governor, this program is trying to ensure that the funding that you receive goes back to the business. Now, you may have expended your own funds through your business and providing PPE to your employees, maybe even to your customers. Maybe you've expended funds in making your place COVID-19 compliant according to health and safety codes here in California. You can reimburse yourself for those expenses, or maybe you need the money to continue to pay for those expenses. If you're paying for mortgage, if you're paying for rent for your place, you can use it. Your utilities, you can use the funds for those purposes. You can use the funds for payroll. Yes, there is the payroll protection program and loan forgiveness that follows. That's a different webinar, but we want you to know you can expend this money on that. But the ineligible uses of the funds, you can't say, well, I laid somebody off. Let me go ahead and tell them, I'm so sorry. Here's a check for you. I just wanted to give you something. I got this money from the government. I want to give it to you. You cannot use the funds for that. You cannot pay back taxes. You cannot pay state share of Medi-Cal. So just bear in mind, and I think it's fairly obvious when you look at legal settlements, when you look at the screen, you can see, okay, it makes sense that you wouldn't want us to pay for that. And you certainly can't say, what, it's been a rough year, I'm going to take a trip. It needs to be put back into the business. So let's continue forward. How applicants will be determined. We talked about this earlier, about the different ways in which you can be reviewed, some of the score components. We talked about that already. I'll just mention it again at a high level. Are you a disadvantaged? Do you live in a disadvantaged community? Are you a member of what we're considering a minority or disadvantaged community? Are you Are you just thinking of designations? Are you a veteran or you're not? Are you a veteran or not? What is your racial status? We're just looking for those that are deemed as disadvantaged, those that need help. That is part of the score. It's not the only component of the score. Everyone is welcome to apply, but we wanted those that may feel like, oh, you know what, it never happens for me. We want to say that there's an opportunity for all of us who have said at one point or another, it never happens for me for whatever reason in my small business. Please make sure that you apply. Let's talk about the grants. We talked about the money. Jerry Maguire, right? Show me the money. Well, let's show you the money that you're eligible to apply for as long as you met the criteria that we talked about earlier. If your annual revenue, I want to remind you again, this is the top section of your tax returns. This is before all the hits happen to your revenues on your tax returns. At the very top of the tax return, annual gross revenue. Notice we said gross, not that that's a disgusting term, but it's an amassing of all the monies, the revenues that were brought into the business. $1,000 to $100,000, you're eligible to apply for a $5,000 grant. If your gross revenues exceeded $100,000, $101,000 to $1 million, you are eligible to apply for a $15,000 grant. And finally, our last class of those who are eligible to apply for grants, if your revenues were $1,001 to $2.5 million, $2,500,000, you are eligible to apply for a $25,000 grant. The application process is in 2 stages. The first stage is all about you, ladies and gentlemen. This is where in the application, we'll talk about the application step by step, not stage by stage. You're taking steps in one stage or another. The first stage is just information. All it is information collection. It's information about you as the owner. It's information about the business that you're operating. It's information about your client base. And of course, it's information about your industry and about the revenues that you've generated. All it is information. You could actually end the process right there. We'll talk about that later on in this presentation. And you are eligible, you will be a part of the group of those that will be scored when the round closes and could possibly be selected, validated, and actually awarded a grant. But to get to that stage, you have to get past the second stage, which is uploading documents. There will be an application certification. We'll talk about that. There will be a need for you to validate who you are. So we are going to look for some type of driver's license, authorization to drive in the state of California, evidence that your business or you are in the state of California, and that your business is legally operating in the state of California. So that's following city rules as well as state rules in so doing. And then finally, the information you'll upload is your banking information. We said earlier, Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Well, I showed you that the money is available, but if you actually want it placed in your hands or in your bank account after you've been qualified to receive this grant, you got to give us your banking information. We'll talk about that. We talked originally the grant certification. The grant certification is a legal document of things you should be aware of if you're applying for this grant. This is a taxable grant, by the way, so be aware of that and other rules and conditions. And essentially, it's a truth in input certification. Is all of the things that you say that you put in the application true about you? Do you understand how the grant selection was made or is going to be made? Because this is the beginning process. Do you understand the rules around getting this particular grant and its usage? It's emphasized in the grant certification. There are 3 different types of certifications. There's a certification for a for-profit business. There's a certification for a nonprofit organization. There's a certification for a nonprofit cultural institutions. So everyone had a different form of certification that they were filling out. What you want to know, the sooner you can get to the certification and get it downloaded and saved on your computer, the better for you, because it will be a document that you will upload later. You cannot submit a quote, completed application, meaning that all the data has been input, without ensuring that you have an application certification in file. You will need that as well. And so please remember to do that. When you get the document, it's an Adobe document, so obviously you can, not obviously, I'm sorry, you can complete the document without downloading it. The only problem is if you don't print it out after you complete it right at that moment, when you exit the document, so did all your data. It got exited with it. Nothing will be saved. So it's best to download the document onto your desktop, laptop, cell phone, electronic device, where you have access to it, complete the information, save it, and then be prepared to upload it back into the system. You can use a live signature by printing the document out, signing it, and uploading it. Or if you have the ability through the program that you use to electronically sign the document, you can certainly do that as well. It'll put an indication that it was electronically signed. It'll reference your name. The other fields, you will complete your name. This is just a sample of the certification. Obviously, we're not going to read through it, but as you can see, there are little lines here where you're going to say, I read this statement, and your initialing that you read the statement. There are 4 pages in each of the certifications, so do be aware to go all the way to the very last page. Make sure you place your signature, your title, print your name, and the date. And again, this is just samples of the certification, one for nonprofit and one for-profit. Continuing on, we were talking about the grant. We talked about the rounds of this grant. It's been through a number of rounds already. This is a little older presentation, so it's still referencing round 3. But right now, all we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is round 6 as far as what you're preparing for. And for those of you who are perhaps in rounds 1 and 2, round 3 is already completed. So for those who applied earlier in the year and were were selected, not going to be selected, and were selected for the grant, you've been notified, you've been selected, and actually they've been funded, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. All of those from December and February, by the end of March, were actually notified, so they were selected. They completed their grant information and they received their funds in their bank account. They're done. Love you, mean it, off they go. Those that were still left from the selection in round 3 moved into round 5. So that round is being scored even as we speak. So from 1, 2, 3, you didn't get selected even at that point. You're now down in round 5. Round 4 was an arts and cultural, so therefore those applicants are taken care of exclusively in that particular round. And those that did not get selected in round 4 entered into round 5. Round 5, everybody that has been in. So basically, we could say everybody from rounds 1 to 5 are all now in the consideration process Those that haven't applied, this is what these webinars are all about. It's all about you. It's about your opportunity to apply for the grant that's coming up on April 28th. So next week, get ready. Remember this information. Review this webinar again, and please apply. This slide is just demonstrating, again, the transition from the different rounds. Where we are now, we're preparing for round 6. In round 6, new applicants will enter the round. Those from round 4, which is the arts and cultural, those from round 5 will all automatically enter into round 6. And nonprofits that weren't selected previously, that you keep saying, I've been waitlisted since December. That's okay. There's still hope, and hope is a wonderful thing. So for those of you that are not selected in this particular round, if you get something that says you were waitlisted, so let me clarify about not selected. Not selected is those that were deemed ineligible. Thank you so much for applying, but you were not only not selected for the grant, you're not eligible for the grant. We've determined information in your application that is such that you're not eligible for the grant. So what we're left with is we're left with those that had one of two decisions. You were either approved or you were waitlisted. And that wait list, again, are those that were from the earlier rounds, as you can see from here, that moved into round 5. These are the new applicants. We talked about this. You're a new applicant. You are collecting documentation that you're uploading. You're getting scored, and then ultimately decisions are being made. But what we're preparing for now is round 6. In round 6, if you're one of those individuals watching this video that have not applied before, this is you on this side. You are a new applicant. You get to apply the very first time between April 28th and May the 4th. You will be asked at some point during the round to upload. I'm sorry, you're actually going to be requesting documentation after the scorecard. So this is an older slide, but the process now is a documentation collection would actually go after the scorecard. But let's just talk about it. So the documents that you're collecting, we will talk about what specifically those are, but documents will need it to be uploaded. They're validating the information when the system selects you and says, you know what, you meet all of the scoring criteria. You have a high enough score to outrank the other people that applied in the particular round. So now you are eligible for a grant. The system writes you and says, you've been selected, congratulations. Now put all the validation documentation necessary into the system, including your banking information, so we can double check. We can make sure that you qualify, excuse me, that everything is validated, everything met all the rules. There's a number of rules that we won't have time to go over, but some of them I do know and some of them I don't know. Lendistry will certainly advise you, but it's the criteria that you have to pass in order to get the funds. And in round 6, this is the final round, so it's going to be one of two outcomes. Either you were approved for the grant and you're getting money, or you were not selected, you were deemed ineligible, not selected, you didn't get the grant, and this will be the end of this particular round and the funds that are available. Tips for applying. Lendistry wanted to make sure we've learned a lot through this process, and we here at AmPac learned a lot in assisting clients through this process. It's important to review the application guide. What I'm going through with you today is pages from the application guide. If you'd like a copy of the guide, please put a request in the chat. Give me your email address and say, I'd like a copy of the application guide. We'd also like to refer you to the website. You can go through our portal to the website and you can see videos. The videos will take you through stage by stage of the application process and show you exactly what the experience is going to be like before you actually enter your information into the system. Isn't it great to be prepared? You want to prepare your required documents, have your tax returns ready, have your articles of incorporation or your business certification information, how you were authorized, or authorization information, how you were authorized to operate business in the field that you operate. Have that ready because questions will be asked from those documents to be input into the system. And really, this is a 15-minute process if you're prepared. You can get in, you can fill out all the information, you can even upload documents, add an extra 5 minutes to do that. As long as it's on your desktop, you can do it all in one shot. 20 minutes, you're done. And you could get anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. Find a partner to apply through. I would like to ask, since you've participated in this presentation, apply through AmPac. You can go to our website, www.ampac.com. Right when you open the page, you'll see the COVID-19 relief grant. Apply now. Go ahead and apply through that portal, through that site, which will take you to the portal when the grant actually opens on April 28th. We do suggest for those of you who are applying for the first time, please consider using Google Chrome. We're not advocating one over another. We're not saying Google is better than anyone else. We're just saying that the experience from those that we have worked with during the course of this process have found that it's more fluid. They don't have any hiccups when they're operating through Google Chrome. It's just the way the system was designed. It seems that Google Chrome is working the best, but you can use Internet Explorer. You can use Firefox. You can use Safari. You can use Bing. There's no presidential treatment to those search engines. Excuse me. But the experience is Google Chrome. Let's keep moving. Please be aware, info@email addresses are not good to use. In fact, they're not accepted. Not only are they not good to use, they're not accepted. I understand for your business, you may have an info at, because the purpose of when a person writes here, this particular info at, they get information back about your company. That's wonderful from a business operations perspective. For the grant, please put in a valid email address that doesn't have info at in it. And on the other side, for those of you who didn't use info at, well, maybe you put your name, but you put @contact.com or @no-reply. Maybe you had your business name and @no-reply. Letting people know. I wouldn't suggest you try to leave any information at this particular email address, because it's only designed to return information back to you, not for you to expect an answer from someone. So with that in mind, make a dummy email address. Don't want to say a fake, I'm saying a dummy, or let's be fair. Use an email address that's not frequently used, a throwaway email address. How about we call it that? Use a throwaway email address for this particular process. So when you're done, you don't need to email anymore. Go back to your info ad, go back to your @contact.com. When it's time to upload your documents, please bear in mind when you're preparing to upload your documents that you upload them correctly. If you notice in the first image, it says correct. So notice it's a background that is blank. There's nothing in the background, no distraction, no noise, if you will, in the background. It's put in portrait, it's straight, and in its portrait's position, the photo is taken, image is captured. The other examples are just saying don't do this, so we won't have to explain them. It's intuitively obvious, you can see it. Some of the applications, if you have not scanned documents before, that you may want to use, if you haven't used a scanning application before, you can use Genius Scan. These do work on mobile devices, by the way. Genius Scan and Adobe Scan are some applications you can use. We've had challenges learning along the way. People were applying at multiple websites, and then when they try to go back, so they're applying through multiple partners. I'm sorry, not multiple websites, but you're applying through multiple partners. There's only one portal. And then when you try to go back, well, you can't remember, is it the Lendistry website that I went to? Was it AmPac's portal that I went to? Maybe it was some other portal that I went to. Well, guess what? The confusion of getting back to that portal, one, because you don't remember, and two, because your cache remembers where you went last. So if you're trying to go to the first portal that you went to, but yet you've been to one additional or two additional or whatever, you're not going to get back there because of the fact that the cache is saying, wait a minute, this is the last place you went, because these search engines have placed a tracking manner in it where they can decide, oh, you were just last at Amazon and you bought this particular product. Let's take you back there to find more products. People pay for that service as a small business. If you're not using that, you may want to check with your internet provider and see how you can get that. But anyway, this is just giving instructions. So it's in the application guide how you can clear your cache so that the next time you go in, I'm sorry, I skipped the screen. So the next time that you go in, you can get back to the place where you were. Or if you don't want your actions tracked, you can use in Google, it's incognito mode. You can use incognito mode. The other search engines, it's in private browsing, and there may be a third term, but incognito mode. In private browsing, you get the idea. It means that when you navigate to a website, the system is not going to maintain that route that you have taken. When you're looking for a partner, this was originally when the grant first opened, you would go into the Lendistry website and you would start by looking for a partner by county or by language. What has since happened now is it remains that way, but you're actually looking for, oh no, it is, you know what, it is still by county and by language. Pardon me, I'm thinking something changed. A lot has changed as we've gone through these 6 rounds, and I got confused as to what was changing in this area, but not in this area. But when you use the address that we will send you, you will go directly to AmPac's portal. So you don't have to worry about, oh, am I choosing the county? Do I have to pick a county and then find AmPac? You'll go directly to our particular portal. When you reach the portal, it will be a time, it will tell you apply now. It will give you the opportunity to either start yourself as a new customer of the program or an existing client. When you click here to apply, when that purple button is lit up, it's only lit up during the time of, pardon me, when you're new applicant, this button will only be lit up purple when the round is open. So it won't be open until April 28th. For those that are newly applying for the grant, please make sure you remember that. If you're existing, if you've already applied for the grant, then you're just going to go here to existing customer and use your email address and the password that you assigned for yourself. So let's talk about actually applying for those on the phone that may be a first-time applicant. This is the series. You'll go through a series of screens. You'll be scrolling through screens. The first screen is asking who is putting the information into the system. And you can see, as you read on the side, first name, last name, email, etc. This is where all email contacts will go to. So please make sure if you're not the person that applied for, that's actually getting the grant, you're applying on behalf of a family member, you're helping a family member out, you're not as tech savvy, or maybe you're the CPA that's applying, that's fine. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're putting your information in and you're allowing pop-up windows and you're allowing email communication back to you. Please make sure as you put in all this information, it's obvious that you check off the box saying, yes, I don't mind receiving text messages, because Lendistry is going to do everything it can as the servicer of this particular grant. Remember, we're a service partner, but they're the actual platform, the servicer of the grant, the people who will be actually distributing the funding. They will reach you by email, phone call, and text message. And you can imagine emails are going out first. Text messages are following, and then the phone call. If you are selected for a grant, they want to make sure every effort has been made to reach you to get the grant. If you do not respond, another application will be pulled forward and actually get the grant. So please make sure you remember that. The next screen is the owner. Now you're putting in information about the actual owner of the business. When this information is input, please complete all fields. Do not miss any fields, and also check off the terms and conditions, because you may want to look at some of the legal language. You can't sleep. Oh man, I really can't sleep tonight. I think I'll read some terms and conditions about the grant I applied for. I really want the money. Read the terms and conditions. You can only get that if you click the button. Information that is needed. Now we're talking about the business. This is all the information about the business. This is why the returns and the articles of incorporation, or your fictitious business name statement, or your driver's license, etc., your business license. This is why it's important to have all of that ready, because the system is going to ask you for that information. It will ask for something that you probably don't commonly keep in your head or keep around, keep available for you to access, which is your NAICS code, N-A-I-C-S, NAICS code. It's North American Industry Classification System. Remember, we talked about how one of the scoring components is, were you in a highly impacted industry? How will anyone determine that? Not because on your application you said you were a restaurant, I'm El Polo Loco. No, the system is going to identify you by the NAICS code. If you don't know what your NAICS code is, guess what? There's a little shortcut button here that you can press, and it will look up your NAICS code for you. When you get to NAICS, NAICS.com, if you don't know what your NAICS code is, and when you look in your tax return, you don't see it up at the top to the left or right-hand side, depending on the tax return that you used, you don't see a reference to a industry code. If you don't see that, you will go here and just put in what you do. Put in fairly simple terms. You won't use a sentence, but put in something simple, childcare, and see what different codes come up for childcare. For example, marketer, see what comes up. Just some ideas what you want to do to get your NAICS code. But again, all fields must be completed. The next section will be how can we help you? We want to help you get a grant. So here's where you're saying, this is the grant I'm applying for based on gross revenues. I'd like to remind you again, gross revenues, the top portion of your tax return. It's the very first line or somewhere near to. It's definitely going to be in section 1A, B, or C. that's your section. That's the number they're looking for. That number, depending on the span in which you fall under, will be the span that you can apply for that level of grant. And remember, we're using the tax returns to validate this. So if you only had in that section $990, you are not eligible for the grant, and you will receive an email saying that you were not selected. When you get to business demographics, this is about the business. Your business lane, how do you operate? Who is your customer? Someone asked me, I don't know if I'm B2B or B2C, business to business or business to consumer. How do I know? It's simply the easiest way to figure that out is who writes the check to you. If a business is writing a check to you, and I don't mean a business owner, but I mean a business, so Xerox is writing a check to you because Xerox has their own clients that they're serving. They're using your product to serve their clients. Then the end user is Xerox for the purposes of this grant, but ultimately for that business to business, their end user is their consumer, and for you, it's the same thing. Who is the end user? Who's the last person where your product is going to end? Whose hands is your product going to end up into last? That's the person that's writing the check. That's who you serve. And then the information, as we talked about before, is about the business in of itself. Please follow the prompts accordingly. Tell us more. So it's your NAICS code. It's the business. Are you women-owned business? Are you a veteran? We talked about that earlier about the demographics. These are key scoring points. So please make sure you don't miss completing those particular fields. The disclosures are going to ask you again more information about the business. You're answering these questions. The beginning of it, it looks like there's 6 questions there, are yes, no answers. And then finally, there'll be dollar values that you will place in. It'll be dollar values, including I believe it's actually including the last 2 of the cents. So you want to be prepared to complete that, hit submit, you're moving on. Here's the most important section of the application. Why do I say that? Because if you don't do the section right, you're going to fail in the process. Your application is not going to get into the system, and you're going to say, why did I do this? So what you want to know, it's very important to answer the question that you understand that if you're completing this application by putting yes, you are saying that I'm submitting my application. I understand I won't be able to edit my application anymore. Once it's in, I'm one and done. So type in the yes. When you type in yes, it'll bring you to continue. When you see yes, you can move further into the application process. And that further being, you can upload documents at that time, or you can simply say, I'm done at this point, but now your application is submitted. If you don't put anything here, please don't forget to push save and continue later, because when you press this particular button, it will save all the information that's input. You'll have an opportunity to go back in and edit any information. Maybe you just put a number in. We'll say a NAICS code. You made up a number just to complete the field and move the application forward, but please make sure you remember to go back and edit it. And the opportunity to do that is don't put yes, just simply put save and continue for later. When you do that as a first-time applicant, the system will return an email to you saying, let's change your password, because now you're ready to be a customer of the program, an applicant who has an opportunity to receive the grant. So you're the customer. You will get that email. Please make sure you stick around, change your password at that particular sitting that you have. It is time sensitive, so if you don't fill it out and it doesn't tell you how much time you have, but I would say just do it then, or don't save and continue if you're not ready to finish the process out to at least reset your password. When you do that, wait for the letter. Reset your password to something you can remember, because the gobbledygook password it's going to give you to enter in as a existing customer, 1, will no longer be valid after a certain period of time, and 2, you won't want that as a password anyway. So please make sure you remember to do that. And this is a sample where the letter is coming out saying, hi, thank you for applying for the California Relief Grant, etc., etc. Basically, it's giving you your username, which will always be your email address. So if you have multiple email addresses, and I've had clients do this, they made up one just for this process and forgot what it was. Please write it down, stick it on a sticky, post-it note, place it on your wherever you are so that you remember, oh, that's the email address I used, and there's that gobbledygook password we spoke to you about. You will change the password. The system will write you and say, okay, great. Now that you put in that temporary password, we've acknowledged that you're an existing customer now. Welcome to the process, but you need to reset it to get that permanent password. So don't forget. Pay attention to make sure you complete that while you're there. Now, The next time you prepare to enter into your application, when you go through that first stage, you're going to see the status of your grant. You're going to recognize that your grant is incomplete. Your grant submission is incomplete. This means you've completed the data portion of it, but you didn't upload any documents, so you are incomplete. What the next tile is telling us is it's reminding you, hey, by the way, thanks for putting in that other information, but you didn't upload your documents. Now's your opportunity. Let's upload some documents. It's also giving you the $5,000 reference because when you filled out all your application information, the system remembered how much you applied for because you completed the process and said continue for later. Now you're back. Now it's saying, hi, welcome back. This is your DIR number. Please make sure you hold on to that. That's your social security number, which we make sure we preserve, right? That's your social security number for this process. Do not forget it. It'll be necessary for this process. Forget it when you're done. Now it's time to upload documents. This is what the portal looks like when it's time to upload documents. You'll notice that the portal is titled in sections. We want to separate the documentation that you're uploading. Do not upload all of the requested documentation under one category. If you do, the system will not indicate that you are 100% complete in your upload, and that will create an issue for you at validation where you're going to have to go in and separate your documents out. Lendistry won't have time to be able to do that for you. Thousands of people are applying. Remind me to tell you what that 1,000 number looks like. Thousands with an S, whoever actually applied. I'll tell you how many there are momentarily. All right, fine, I'll tell you now. Over 400,000 people have applied for, small businesses have applied for this grant. So please make sure you do this information correctly and accurately so that the system, the process can operate, system and the process can operate efficiently for you. Pick a category, browse your computer, find that document, upload it. As you upload, and this is just walking you through, you're pushing the button saying, hi, I'm ready to upload a document in this particular category. I'm going to browse my computer. I'm going to get that document. I'm going to upload it. And the system is going to tell you, thank you, you're complete for this particular section. It'll give you a percentage. I believe that's a 25% complete. There's 4 categories. Maybe there's 5, maybe it's 20%, but essentially you'll know I'm not complete until that says 100%, and not having the 100% is because you didn't put something in each of the categories. The system will not know if you put your driver's license under the tax return category, so please make sure you're uploading the right document in the right category, so down the line it does not slow the approval process down for you. Notice I said approval process. I am hopeful that those individuals that are on this call today will actually get selected for a grant. Linking your banking information. This is the last part of the uploading process, the banking information. Now what you're inputting here is you're providing the account that you want to put the funds into. This will be your bank account. This will be your, your bank account number and your ABA number. Please be advised that the system is tied into another proprietary system called PLAID, P-L-A-I-D, not as in an outfit, but as in a system that will check all these varying places for all banking activity, hence the expression plaid, because all of these different tiles, when you think about plaid clothing, represent different institutions or areas in which you've had banking transactions or lending in the past. It will check that. Is it checking to see for scoring purposes? No, it is not. I've had that question asked. What it is doing, it is simply validating that you've had compliant banking activity. You had a loan, your loan exists, your loan was repaid, being repaid on schedule, etc. It's not looking at a score. It's looking at, have you managed your banking activities properly? And by the way, your bank account, it does exist. It's valid. We can place money there. Finally, this is a critical part of what you want to know during the time in which you apply for the grant. It becomes, you get anxious. Let's face it, we all want to know, did I get it? Did I get it? Daily, you'll check the grant. A couple of things you want to know. If you apply on April 28th, no decisions will be made until after the round closes. This is round 6. This is the final round. So from April 28th, if you're the first person, you chose that day, the first day that the application cycle is open to apply, please make sure you don't start looking as to whether or not you were selected for a grant on April 29th or on April 30th or on May 1st, etc., through May 4th. No decisions are being made until everyone has had an opportunity to apply for the grant, April 28th to May the 4th. The grant opens on April 28th at 9 a.m. The grant will close, the grant cycle, this last round, will end on May the 4th at 5 p.m. promptly. If you have not completed an application before that time, you'll have no more opportunity to enter the portal and apply for the grant. You will have opportunity to continue access to the portal after the cycle closes, and that will be only to add additional information to your application. If you recall, when we were speaking earlier, we were saying how you can complete an application and not upload a single document and actually get selected for a grant. The next word you're looking for is, am I awarded for the grant? You cannot be awarded until all your information has been uploaded, has been validated by the human being. It's been a computer up to this process. Now a human being will match up information and say, yep, everything checks out. The bank account is valid. They're ready for their money. Send them a grant award notice. Okay. Here's a sample of what the tiles can look like. The tiles being the portal screen that you will see when you go in. We've already talked about the first two. Here's the fun part of the process, getting selected. You're going to get an email. You may receive a text message as well. You won't receive a phone call, though. The phone calls don't come until you've been selected and time has passed and you have not responded. And Lendistry either has to make sure you just didn't know you had it, so they got to call you and say, did you not see your portal? Did you not see your text? Your email, rather, excuse me, your portal, your email, or your text, did you not see in those locations that you were selected? Let's call you and make sure everything's okay, because we want to give you the money that you were requesting. So that will say selected pending validation. This means, again, you're going to get one of those means of communication. You're going to upload those particular documents, and then somebody's going to review it. If it checks out, a grant certification goes out along with the W-9. This is a taxable grant. Your portal message will change to in closing docs out or pending for funding. So one or two situations are existing. Either the docs are out, you haven't signed them, or the docs have been returned, you've signed them, but the funds have not been distributed. Very important that you remember, when you see this message, the money is on the way. Yes, you're Jerry Maguire, show me the money, right? I get it. The system gets it as well, but you need to wait your turn to actually get the funding once you return the documents back. But please don't forget, return the documents back. Once you return the documents back, now you're in a position to receive funding. When you have returned them back, no need to call any further. 2 days you want to keep in mind. These are going to be your favorite 2 days during this particular process. It's Tuesday and Thursday. Please mark that down. Tuesday and Thursday from 12 a.m. to 12, from 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. on that given day, Tuesday and Thursday. You can check your emails, check your phone, check your computer, look for your portal, do all the checking you can electronically. Don't try to call. You just could get caught up in the phone quagmire, right? People waiting in line trying to get your representative to ask, when is my money coming? Tuesday or Thursday, 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. You can expect to look for your funds during that time. It could take several weeks before you receive the funds, so just narrow your anxiousness down to on Tuesday and Thursday for from May the 5th forward. They expect to have all the money completely distributed by May the 31st. And remember, over 400,000 people applied. We don't know specifically how many people are left that could still be selected, but let's just say if it started out at 400,000 back in December, there's still a lot of people left in line waiting to receive money. So I would suggest just waiting Tuesday and Thursday, wait to receive information. You will eventually be contacted. The frustration mounts when you try to email, because now I didn't receive it, I didn't see any information, and I'm emailing and I'm waiting. So, but you're welcome, and by all means, you're welcome to email me at AmPac. My email addresses are Pallay, P-A-L-L-A-Y, at AmPac.com. You can certainly email me and say, this is my DIR number. I'm just trying to figure out a status. I can't log back in. If you have any of those challenges, go ahead and email me. I'll contact Lendistry on your behalf and get your information. I'll respond back promptly. And of course, finally, how will you know you got the grant? Well, your bank should notify you. Money just landed in your account. Yay. I remember the stimulus checks when those came out. Sure was nice getting that notice from my bank. Your stimulus check has been deposited. Same thing with this grant. But Lendistry, true to their form, as they've been operating, you will receive a text, you will receive an email, just no one will call you. Your portal will be updated. That grant has been funded. Congratulations to you. I thank you all so very much for joining this presentation on this morning. I hope that it's been insightful for you. I hope that it helps you to understand the process. I hope it encourages you to tell a friend. If you've applied and you're still waiting, tell a friend anyway. Give them an opportunity as well. Share the love, share the wealth. If you have not applied, I hope something was said today to encourage you to say, yes, I'm going to give it a shot. We want your small business to continue. Thank you, Governor Newsom and the Office of California, and the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. Thanks to that staff. Thanks to those at Lendistry for creating this system, servicing this system so that our small businesses, you, and you who are on the call today, get an opportunity to recognize there is help available. This is my opportunity. This is my chance. Please don't miss it. And here at AmPac, we thank you so very much for the opportunity to listen to us. We wanted to share this information for you. We are a faith-based organization, so I do end my presentations with a hearty God bless you for attending. Please be safe. Please be well during these times. These are indeed perilous times, but let us all take regard for the lives of one another and to be safe in the dealings that we do each and every day. And we look forward to hearing from you that you received the grant. Don't forget to email me and let me know you won. We'd like to know. God bless you. Bye-bye now.